Hey everyone, it's Brooke. Welcome back to my channel. I'm going to very casually wrap up the first 6 books I'm going to talk to you about that I read in January. These are not in order. They're just in order in which I picked them off the shelf. The first thing I want to ask though is do you guys want me to do a January book haul? I got a lot of books. I can haul them if you want, but to be honest, I've really been enjoying just kind of sharing them on Instagram, and I've been using Instagram a lot more for pretty much just book stuff. So, I mean, I can make a video here because I know most people don't follow me on Instagram. Like, no one follows me on Instagram. It's so funny. I have people who don't really read much, now sending me messages like, oh, would you recommend I read this? It's been interesting, but yeah, I enjoy kind of just quickly doing book mail every now and again on Insta stories, but I can do a full video here if you want to see everything I've gotten over the month of January. I think my problem with the beginning of the year is that I consider basically the first 2-3 months of the year, maybe the first 2 months, just my birthday. I just decide that after Christmas, it's my birthday period, and my birthday is February 24th, so I just feel like January and February, I buy myself lots of birthday things. I always told Jimmy, he's like, what's this? I'm like, oh, it's for my birthday. As you do. I mean, I turned 35 this year, so I feel like that's kind of a big year because that's when women are, basically dead, right? Because we shouldn't have babies and our health gets really bad and all this kind of stuff they tell you when you hit 35. So, it's my death day birthday party. So, buy myself books, as you do. Anyway, we can talk about books now. I'm going to talk about one I don't have a physical copy of because I listened to it on audio and unfortunately didn't enjoy it enough to, buy a physical copy. And that was Pride by Ibi Zoboi. So, Pride is a YA contemporary romance retelling of Pride and Prejudice. It is set in Bushwick in Brooklyn, and follows Zuri, who is the Lizzie Bennett character, and she's from an Afro Latinx family. And then across the street, a very wealthy black family move in, the Darcys. So you can see where this is going. And yeah, the book just kind of goes from there, and it's really engaging with gentrification of Brooklyn and Bushwick specifically, which I think is a great way to update and modernize the story. Unfortunately, one of the reasons I don't read retellings is that when something tries to be so faithful, and I think this can be a retelling of anything, when you try to be so faithful to something that you create these new characters but then try to force them to fit the plot points and the exact way a story unfolds that's not the story these characters originally were in, it feels very forced. Everyone becomes very sort of flat and one-dimensional to me, and it just is never allowed to kind of organically unfold the story, So this really fell victim to that. And it's sad because there's a part in the book that I really enjoyed where Zuri goes to the Howard campus for a day trip because that's where she wants to go to college, and I really liked the way that was written and the thoughts she was thinking and kind of engaging with what does it mean to leave your neighborhood and what does it mean then to maybe go back or to not go back. And I was like, gosh, that's what I want to read. I want to read a Zuri goes to Howard campus novel that isn't beholden to the Pride and Prejudice story structure. So some people really like it. If you're just a fan of hitting the Pride and Prejudice beats, maybe you would too. I just think it didn't do enough of its own thing to really grab me in any meaningful way. So 2 stars to that. But it's not terrible, it's just not the greatest. I read for my book club this month All You Can Ever Know by Nicole Chung. This is her memoir. It focuses specifically on being adopted. This was sold to me as very much focusing on, she was transracially adopted, so she was born to Korean parents in the Pacific Northwest and then adopted by white parents and grew up in a small, very white town in Oregon. And it was sold to me as like that's what it was going to focus on, is just like what it means to be transracially adopted, particularly by like a white family. And I was really, really interested in that. And I think the first third of this book does that really well, and I think like the last chapter is also really great at that. But I feel like the main drive of this book, and I just want so that you don't feel weird if you read it, is her trying to find her birth family. And then like reuniting with her birth family, I think is really sort of where this book spends most of its time, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It just felt kind of like not what I had signed up for. I also think that Nicole Chung is a pretty prolific essayist at this point, and I feel like this is an essay someone suggested she make into a longer kind of book that maybe should have stayed an essay. I think that it lost some of its impact because I think the middle got really repetitive, and I felt like it kept saying the same thing over and over and over again until we got to a far more interesting finale. It also, you can tell when she talks about her adopted parents, she's holding back quite a bit. Like you can tell she's just trying not to hurt anybody, which is like totally understandable. But I just feel like if you shorten it and you don't have to focus for so many pages on things, like it could just be a little bit sharper in that way. I still think this was really interesting. I still got really like emotional when she hugs her sister for the first time. I think it asks a lot of really important and interesting questions about, people always just assume adoption is this great thing that happens to you, but there's a lot of complexities in adoption, and who you get adopted by, and like identity and things that get kind of rolled up in that. So I appreciated those discussions here. This just was like a solid 3.5 star, because I felt like there were just a couple of niggling things I didn't love too much about it. Then I want to talk about Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. I'm not going to say much. This is the second in the Six of Crows duology. I loved Six of Crows. I still think Six of Crows is the best book Leigh Bardugo has ever written. I really enjoyed Crooked Kingdom. I think it was about 100 pages too long. It's about 100 pages longer than Six of Crows, and I think that it wasn't necessary to be that long, so that's why it's not gonna like live up to the full potential that Six of Crows set up for it. But again, I love these stories. These characters. I think that it is really great to watch an author improve the way that she did between the Grisha trilogy and this. It is like night and day. She really just must have worked so hard, and so just kudos to Leigh Bardugo. And I am so excited for King of Scars. Like, these books, I love feeling like fandom-y. I don't even know how to explain it. Like, to really geek out about something. And I feel like that doesn't happen for me in books very often, but like in TV and movies, like I can get really into them and like want to go read fan fiction and all that kind of thing. And I feel like I'm searching for that in books. Like, that's kind of where I want to be. And YA often lends itself to that more. And in genre fiction, I think in general, just no matter who is targeting as its audience. But this, I felt like, I need to read fan fiction, I needed to look at fan art, I need to like buy merch. So yeah, I have a lot of strong feelings. I've made people read it in my life so that I could like fangirl like with people my own age. So that's a thing. And yeah, I enjoy it. What can I say? I still think the like damseling of Inej was a bad choice though, and I'm like actively angry at Leigh Bardugo for that. But everything else aside, it's pretty good stuff. I also read In an Absent Dream by Seanan McGuire. This is the fourth, right? Yeah, in her Wayward Children series. I did a whole full review on this, so you can go watch that so I can save some time here, but I really loved it. I just finished Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. I listened to this on audio. I waited. I wanted to read this a lot. My book club read her Shades of London series, and we really enjoyed it. So I wanted to read this, but I heard it had such a really explosive cliffhanger that made people angry. So I was like, well, I'll just wait a year until The Vanishing Stair comes out, and it'll be fine. So I was prepared for like the ending to not really resolve anything, but this is just like sort of like a boarding school mystery. It is YA. I liked the characters. I like boarding school, like sort of like, you know, a trapped room mystery, but like at a boarding school with these kids, and I liked them, I liked their interactions. I liked the like cliffhanger at the end. I'm so mad that I didn't see that coming. I was like, how did I not guess this a million times, but I didn't. So yeah, it was fun and fast and just sort of, man, I sped read through this. Well, sped listened, and I'm enjoying having happy book experiences lately. It's been really nice. And I can't wait to read The Vanishing Stair, which I hear probably has another cliffhanger, so that's fun. And then finally, in this part of the wrap up, I'm going to talk about Jade City by Fonda Leigh. I just finished this. I also mostly listened to this on audio. The audiobook is good. So it's a truly devious audio. So I thought about making a whole separate review for this, because I feel like there's a lot to say. This is very much an East Asian inspired sort of like mobster, mafia, crime family story. I mean, it is. It's two families effectively in like power over this country, this like East Asian inspired country, going to war with each other. And it leans very heavily on that. It's marketed a lot as fantasy, and I think that's really not the best way, because this is nothing like what you think of when you think of fantasy. The only fantastical aspect of this book is that certain people are born with the ability to like wear jade, and the jade gives them like superhuman fighting abilities. Like that's kind of it. And like the country is made up, but it's made up in a way that it could exist in our world. There's nothing like fantastical about it. So I wouldn't call this fantasy. If I was going to say fantasy, I would say urban fantasy, but urban fantasy light. I think you have to go in reading this like it's a kind of gritty gangster crime family drama, really. And as that, I think this is fantastic. It took 100 pages for me to like it, and I think that probably if I had been reading it not on audio, I might have DNF'd it, because it just was so much not what I was expecting. So I want to kind of make sure that if you pick this up, that you know what to expect. But once I got into it and I kind of cared about the characters, and when I finally knew I cared about the characters, boy, I was all in. It was like this really fast paced, but also like just slow enough and long enough. I feel like this earns its length, because I think this is character driven. I think it's asking you, the only way you're gonna like this is if you give a shit about kind of the main family we follow and the three siblings, the heads of that family, and their relationships with each other. Because if you don't, I'm not sure that like just like some brawling in the streets, you know, is really gonna do it for you. But man, something happens midway through this book that I was like so shocked. And like I kept trying to talk myself out of it, like, no, that didn't happen. This didn't happen. They're gonna do that. Yeah, I think also, so one criticism I have of Jade City is that I wanted there to be more like prominent female characters in this, because there's really only one that we get a lot of page time with, and that's Shay. She's the sister in the family, and I love her to death. And I think Fonda Leigh made storytelling decisions with her that were phenomenal, because they could have gone a different route. I think a lot of fantasy writers would have gone a different route, and she chose not to. and God bless her for it. I mean, truly, I was so happy with Shay's story. And there is the leader of the other crime family is a woman. And she's amazing too, but we don't get a lot of time with her. So I think I love the way she writes women. I just wish there were more of them. It's probably my biggest criticism. But yeah, the second book, this is a trilogy. The second book comes out in April, July, June, sometime. It's called Jade War, and I'm very excited. I have theories. I've already started making theories. That's how much I kind of got into it. And it really snuck up on me because, like I said, I think there's another timeline where I DNF this, but I'm so glad I didn't. Audio helped me not do that, so I'm loving audio these days. So anyway, Jade War. Read it for what it is, not what you want it to be, though. Yeah, so that's been some of my reading. Really having a good time with the books here lately, especially audiobooks. And I will, I guess, see you in my next wrap-up, maybe a book haul. Again, let me know. And I'll talk to you guys later.